Good evening, I'm Abe.
And I'm Frank. And tonight, we're adumbrating Chapter 17, Manifest Destiny and Its Legacy, in Kennedy, Cohen, and Bailey's The American Pageant textbook. Abe, take it away.
All right. At this time, during the 1840s, territorial expansion dominated American politics and diplomacy. Harrison was elected to office, but he quickly contracted pneumonia and died within 4 weeks of being elected. This was the shortest administration in American history. So John Tyler succeeded Harrison. Tyler technically was a Whig, but he was accused of being a Democrat. Essentially, Tyler was part of a minority in the Whig Party that supported many Jeffersonian states' rights advocates. Overall, the Whig Party under Tyler was 1. Pro-internal improvements, pro-bank, and pro-protective tariff. Now, Frank, could you tell me more about John Tyler's presidency?
Absolutely. So the Whigs and Tyler created a strongly nationalistic political agenda. The first step was to create financial reform in the shape of an end to an independent treasury. However, when the Whigs attempted to pass a new bill recreating the Bank of the United States in the form of the fiscal bank, it was vetoed by Tyler. The Whigs were up in arms, sending death threats and trying to impeach Tyler for his lack of cooperation. His entire cabinet, save Webster, resigned in protest. Tyler then vetoed a proposed Whig tariff since it called for monetary distribution among the states, further infuriating traditional Whigs. The Whigs redrafted this tariff bill, and the Tariff of 1842 represented the first agreement between Tyler and Congress. So, can you tell me how rivalry between England and the US further intensified?
Yes. Americans were hostile towards Britain at this time for several reasons. 1. The Americans bitterly remembered the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. 2. Many old pro-British Federalists had already died off. 3. British travelers badmouthed American customs in their travel books that the British wrote. And 4. America owed lots of money to Britain, and a loaner is never popular with his debtor. Conditions between America and Britain became even more hostile with the Canadian Revolt. Remember, the British occupied Canada at this time. Hundreds of Americans opposed the British and provided military supplies and volunteered for the rebels in Canada. But the peak of tension was indubitably the British sinking of Caroline, an American steamer. A certain Canadian named McLeod was arrested after claiming a part in the Caroline raid. That's how important it was. Fortunately for him, the British stated that executing McLeod would mean war, so the Americans were compelled to free McLeod. The British had already abolished slavery and clashed with the Americans when British officials offered asylum to 130 Virginia slaves who had captured Creole, another American steamer ship. But Frank, how did American, British, and British conflicts further manifest themselves?
They manifested themselves up north in the state of Maine. There, a vague peace treaty between the US and England resulted in skirmishes over who controlled northern Maine territory, known as the Aroostook War, which was mainly just lumberjacks fighting against each other. Fortunately, in 1842, just as the situation was becoming more serious, Lord Ashburton of Britain and Secretary of State Daniel Webster managed to reach an agreement regarding the division of land. Sneakily, America also received 6,500 square miles of Minnesota land, rich with iron deposits. Abe, can you explain for us why Britain was so interested in Texas?
Yes, but first, let's remember that Mexico formally recognized Texas as a province in revolt. The Texans had to maintain a military since they never knew when a Mexican attack was coming. This military was expensive, so the Texans opened negotiations with Britain and France with the hope of gaining a defensive wall. Britain was very interested in Texas for 4 main reasons. 1. Texas could contain America's imperialistic ambitions that were directed southward, since America's bulging biceps were always threatening British New World possessions. 2. Texans could be manipulated to turn against the Americans, which would create a diversion behind which other powers like Britain and France could claim their shares of the Americas. And 3. British abolitionists wanted to free the blacks in Texas and inflame the other nearby southern blacks to revolt. 4. Texas was a tariff-free trade area that could potentially supply great amounts of cotton, allowing Britain to relinquish its dependence on American cotton. Now, Frank, could you tell me what other political developments occurred in 1844?
I sure can. First of all, James K. Polk, the pro-expansion Democrat, won the election of 1844. However, in Tyler's final moments of that year, he made it his goal to absorb Texas, finally achieving this goal through the use of a simple majority vote in both House and Senate. This obviously angered Mexico, but historians agree that Mexico lacked the strength to reconquer Texas anyway. Alright, Abe. America now had territory all across the continent, but how did it go about exploring this northwestern territory?
Alright, so initially, a total of 4 nations claimed parts of Oregon: Spain, Russia, US, and Britain. However, Spain lost its claims to Oregon in the 1819 Florida Treaty, and Russia also lost its claims in the 1824 and 1825 treaties. British claims to Oregon, however, were strong. The Hudson Bay Company was overall the most important colonizing agency for the British in the Oregon areas. Americans also had claims to Oregon through Lewis and Clark's expeditions and by the presence of many American missionaries and settlers. So the British and Americans adopted an arrangement of peaceful joint occupation. But soon an Oregon fever came about and pushed hundreds of American pioneers to settle in Oregon. The British, because of this, lost the population race and began to realize the fault of the seemingly peaceful joint occupation. However, the only part of Oregon in actual controversy during this time was the region between the Columbia River and the 49th parallel. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Comment down below if you have any questions, and we'll catch you guys next time in part 2.